Guys, draft season's just around the corner. We have ourselves some early ADP data. Top 50 guys. Let's go and check him out. G'day guys, I'm here with Steve St-Pierre, my good friend, and we're going to take you through the top 50 FANTRAX early ADP. Before we get to that, Steve, how you going, my friend?
I'm doing amazing. I was telling you off air, it's an honor and a pleasure to be back with you on your podcast. And as you pointed out, this is your first one in a little bit. So like I said, I appreciate you inviting me to be a part of it with you here.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Yeah, it's my first show in 5 months. So a long off season for myself. Yeah. I've done quite a few shows. I've done a couple with yourself, a few with Kingy. I got a few more lined up as well. But I thought, hey, let's get back onto my own channel, pump out some shows, and I have some good friends on. But let's go through the top 50. What we'll do as well, we will break it down, not just based on the current ADP on FANTRAX, particularly for those that play 9-cap, but we'll look at last year's rankings for 9-cap, but also for points leagues, for those that did play points leagues last season, give you just a bit of a comparison to see where we're at right now and where they were at last season as well. But shall we get into it, my mate?
Yes, sir.
All right. What we're going to do very quickly, this is the first 2 rounds, top 24, but we're going to break it down as follows. So the first round, first tier of guys, pretty clearly, top 4, Victor Wembanyama, Nikola Jokic, SGA, and Luka Doncic.
Yeah, that's the consensus for right there. And you can really pick any order of preference. Last year I was really high on Shea because, and we'll get into it, but my love of guards. And with all the injuries last year, we knew that there was going to be a huge premium on those, floor general type of guys. And I think there's still a premium even now because they're all going to go quickly. And we'll get into some of that. But, I mean, at the very top, you can't go wrong with a guy like Wemby, again, assuming he's healthy and with his progression and everything. We know he's a fantasy cheat code. Joker, same thing with him. Kind of an older version of that, but still, going strong. You and I talked about it on my show. He's someone that you can easily take top 2, no brainer. And then Luka, especially now with LeBron fully out of the picture. I mean, they're turning a corner. They're going in a different direction. The Lakers as a franchise. We know the kind of power that Luka has in fantasy. And again, I just said it. You got to have those guys, those high usage guys. And if he's healthy, he's a no-brainer top 4 pick.
Yeah, like you said, no-brainer consensus top 4. I will mention that I do have last season's rankings, courtesy of #basketball. So thanks to the guys at # as well. ADP data for FANTRAX was released a few days ago. I've updated it for today as well. And there's been some slight adjustments in terms of the top 4. No real adjustments, except Wemby was an ADP of 1.5 just a couple of days ago. It's now neck and neck with Jokic as well. So keep in mind that a lot of this ADP data, obviously it's early, but it's also based on some dynasty leagues. There's also got a few mock drafts happening. So be mindful of that as well. But also when we get to the later rounds, be mindful that a lot of the guys that didn't play as much last season, we'll get to one very shortly, probably a little bit lower on the list just in terms of what their production was last season. For a couple, 0. But yeah, keep that in mind. If you do happen to have any early drafts as well, keep that in the back of your mind as well. But let's get into the next tier. Cade Cunningham and Tyrese Maxey, you mentioned guards going really early. I know last season you were massive on Tyrese Maxey, and for good reason, and he had an amazing season. What are your thoughts on him this season?
I'm actually still very high on him. In fact, and we'll get to Tyrese Halliburton as well, who's at number 11 on this list with the ADP. But I've got these two and Halliburton in this tier right here. Again, I just think there's a huge premium on elite guards. And we know the potential with all these guys. Cade Cunningham, if you're playing in 9-cat, he still has a little bit of flaws in his game. He's not quite there yet. He was 17th in 9-cat per game last season, but we know the potential. And with my Pistons, we know that there's still a lot of work to be done with that roster. They've lost more talent than they've gained. And so because of that, they're going to need that much more out of Cade this season. And then with Maxey, we talked all about it. He had a dream season a year ago. He did miss some time during a lot of fantasy playoffs and head-to-head leagues last year. So that was kind of a bummer. But other than that, he was fantastic. He was 5th in per game in terms of 9-cat, exactly where I had him. And so I was very happy with that. And then Tyrese Halliburton, like I said, he's number 11 in terms of the ADP right now. I think he's going to rise. I think, and if we see that he's fully healthy, come preseason, if he's out there on the court showing what he's doing, I think he's going to be right up in this same mix here.
And look, I can't leave this without challenging you. And I think a lot of people are probably a little bit lower.
Oh, trust me, I've been challenged already based on mock drafts.
100%. 100%. I think there's a good argument both ways as well. And I guess with Maxey, there's a whole plethora of talent alongside of him. So I can see that argument as well. I will note that I think you use I use hashtag basketball in terms of my rankings for 9-cat. You use basketball monster. So it's slight variation, but very similar in terms of value. But I do have the points league rankings from last season as well. Just a really nice juxtaposition between the 9-cat rankings and the points, and just showing that the likes of Cade Cunningham do get docked a little bit because of the turnovers. The likes of Giannis, who we'll talk about shortly, because of free throws, obviously. But yeah, something to keep in mind. But interesting takes on Tyrese Maxey, and we'll get to Tyrese Halliburton very shortly. Now, before we do, here's the next tier: Jason Tatum, Jalen Johnson, Anthony Edwards, and Giannis.
Yeah, I mean, these are the guys that if you don't take those guards, these are all options here for you. And of course, we know with Tatum, he was coming off the injury as well. He came back late last season and looked really good. So that's why people aren't afraid to draft him. They are still a little apprehensive on guys like Halliburton. But yeah, we know Tatum. We know his potential. And this is, he's a surefire first rounder. If you want him, you're going to have to take him late first round, mid to late first round. Jalen Johnson, we've seen him just completely skyrocket now. His role with the Atlanta Hawks, he is their go-to guy now. And, points leagues, we see it right there on the screen. He was 7th overall, but even in 9-cat, his role is continuing to increase. And, he's a young guy, tons of upside. Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards, you and I talked about him on my show, and he's a guy that, kind of like Cade Cunningham, like he's not quite there in terms of the actual per game performance, but he's close enough, and he's durable. He's still got room to grow in his game. And so much like all these other guys, like if you want him, this is where he's going and this is where he's going to go. And we all know the deal with Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's definitely more of a points league guy. And if you're playing in categories, he's a build kind of guy. But in any case, he's someone who's going to go in the first round, maybe early second round, probably at the latest. So
any concerns around Giannis's health? New team, different system.
Yeah.
Concerns with his health, his knees?
I've always been concerned with him just in general, like with everything that I said, and the fact that like he's another year older. He's been in and out of lineups because of injury stuff in the past. So it's always a risk. It's always a strategy. If you do take him early, you do have to build around him. You can do it even in category leagues, but there's definitely a huge strategy and a huge commitment once you go that route. But he's definitely an option, and he's definitely someone who's going to go around here. I don't think the ADP is going to change too much on any of these guys.
Let's get to the guy that you were talking about earlier, Tyrese Halliburton. Yeah. He's the next level, and there is a slight shift. He was 12th before today. He's now moved up to 11th, ahead of Scotty Barnes. You think for good reason?
Yeah, I think this is going to rise, especially as we get more positive news and information on him working out, on him feeling good, on the team commenting on him, looking and feeling like he's back to normal. Of course, none of us know until we can see it. But to me, again, like I put a premium on, elite ball handlers, high usage guys, and guys who we know when they are healthy, they've got the upside. And, especially if I'm in a league with other great people, you've got to take some risks. It's always tough starting your draft with an injury risk type of player, but every situation is different. And, when we're doing these industry mock drafts, for me personally, like I try to be aggressive and I try to make sure that I'm always taking the best player. And, every player has an injury risk to some extent, and you always have to kind of have a backup plan for every single pick. And but yeah, like I said, if we see him healthy, if we see him out there in preseason and he's balling out, this number is just going to increase. He will be a mid-first round guy if he's fully healthy.
Concerned about the missed games as well. Obviously, there's going to be maintenance games, but we see that with so many players these days.
So many players, and Halliburton's a younger guy. I mean, if there's anybody who can bounce back, it's somebody like him. So,
okay.
And again, based on everything we're seeing and hearing so far, it's all positive. So
absolutely. Let me ask you this one: how high are you going to go? You've got your choice between Tyrese Maxey, your other love child, and Tyrese Halliburton. Which guy are you Which guy are you taking there?
It's a tough call right now. So I've got Cade and the two Tyreses right now, all next to each other. So okay. I think right now I would go Cade before the two Tyreses, but it's super duper close. I was going to say with Maxey, there are a lot of concerns now with this new Philadelphia 76ers team with LeBron James there, with Jaylen Brown there. Joel Embiid when he's healthy, like how's that dynamic going to work with all those guys? Obviously, they're all going to be impacted to a degree in terms of like usage, in terms of sharing the ball, and in terms of like the responsibilities on both ends. But again, I just think all these guys are so good. They're so elite. And, you know, a lot of different things can kind of change, but you just got to take the best guys. And so right now I'd probably go Cade first. It is an absolute toss-up between Maxey and Halliburton. I would probably go Maxey because he's healthier.
Yeah.
But again, that can change.
And we'll do a lot of these shows as well, just to, I guess, look at the trend in terms of ADP, and we'll see perhaps Halliburton does go up with your viewpoint as well. So let's get into the second round, starting with Cooper Flagg in the 13th rank, but also Donovan Mitchell, who had a really fantastic season, particularly at the start of last season, sort of cooled off, particularly alongside of James Harden.
Yeah, Cooper Flagg, we can see that he wasn't quite here yet, but so much upside. He might be the most high upside guy other than Wemby. In basketball. I mean, he's that good. He's that versatile, and you know his game's just continuing to grow.
And he's a top 5 dynasty prospect for those that do play dynasty leagues. Easily top 5. Some would even have him a lot higher than that.
Dynasty guy. And with Kyrie Irving presumably back, it's going to be interesting to see how that impacts Flagg's game. A lot of people think that that's going to help him now. He's going to, be able to play more off ball. The defenses will have to adjust. They won't all be able to just crowd him all game, every game. And that's obviously going to have a positive impact. But we'll have to see. Donovan Mitchell, we know who he is, and we know the kind of upside that he has. And this is where he should be going in drafts. He should be a late first round, early second round guy. Very easy, very safe pick. And again, we still have some unanswered questions right now in Cleveland, but assuming everything kind of goes to where we think it's going to, with James Harden going back there, like you said, Donnie Mitch had such a great season. He's been a great player. This is where he's going to go, and this is kind of, where we know he's going to finish year after year.
Yeah, pretty safe pick there. Next tier of guys, Kat, KD, and Steph Curry.
Yeah, a little bit older group here. So you start to run that risk of, again, maintenance, actual injuries that could impact them like long-term in terms of the season. Karl Anthony Towns, he's somebody that, I would call an elite big man. So if you miss out on the Jokers and the Wembys, Cat's kind of in that next tier. So this is why I think he'll be going around this spot, late first, early second. Definitely somebody that you can kind of build your team around. With KD, with Steph, we know how great they are. It's just simply, can they stay healthy? Can they play out there all year? And if you're playing in head-to-head leagues, you just run that risk of, are they going to be there for you during the fantasy playoffs when you need them the most and just down the stretch? But in terms of per game, in terms of their talent level, in terms of like where they, how they produce their numbers and everything, like this is where they need to be going.
Yeah, a ton of rumors around Steph Curry as well, potentially leaving the Warriors, but I'll believe it when I see it. Look at the disparity between the 9-cat ranking and the points league ranking as well. And I think that just highlights the efficient nature of KD's game and Steph Curry's game as well.
Yeah.
Karl Anthony Towns, pretty even across both type of formats. But yeah, KD and Steph Curry. the efficiency we've long known about. But let's get into the next tier. We spoke about Jamal Murray last night on your show.
Yeah.
Amazing season. First rounder in 9-cap per game last season, 17th in points. Do you see him replicating that, or do you think that he takes a step back this season?
He's another one that's another year older. He's had injury history in the past. But you and I talked about Denver's lack of depth right now. They're going to need him to produce like he did a year ago if they want to still contend for the title. But they definitely need a little bit more help behind him. So I don't know that we can count on him finishing this high, but this is probably where you're going to need to start targeting him. So these ADP numbers could come down just a little bit, depending on, again, like some of these other questionable guys, like do we see them playing? Do we see them healthy? Maybe a guy like Murray slips a little bit, but he was so good last year per game. And again, whether it's category or points, he had a phenomenal season. We know the talent's there. And again, we know Denver's going to need him. So I do really like him around the spot. Again, if you're targeting guards and if you miss out on those like really elite ones that are going in the first round, early second round, Murray would kind of be next on the list.
Sengun, his game, he doesn't really hurt you anywhere. But yeah, getting into Sengun, he does hurt you in 9-cap.
He
points
does.
league, fantastic in points league, but he does have some 9-cap deficiencies.
Yep, exactly. Sengun's a guy that, much like Giannis, if you're taking him this early in category leagues, it's a build thing. You're punting some categories presumably, and you're building your team around these type of players. It's not usually the way you or I draft typically in category leagues. But like you said, in points leagues, this is where he can and probably will be going.
Do you think Sengun can ever turn things around in terms of the efficiency and become not just baby Jokic, but a more formal version of Jokic?
I think he can get better. I don't know that he can get this high, especially on that team if everyone's healthy. We've got a presumably healthy Kevin Durant. We've got Fred VanVleet coming back. Amin Thompson still there. I mean, it's going to be kind of tough individually for those guys to improve more than what we've seen already, but it is possible for sure. And then Trae Young's a guy that he's normally a better player than this in any format. He had a really tough year last year. Obviously, the injuries really hampered him. He got traded, went to a situation where obviously Washington wanted to keep him long term, but in the short term, they weren't really going to be able to use him because they were already losing team. So they just shut him down. But we saw that's a situation where I think real life impacted fantasy. The fact that I think everybody in Atlanta kind of knew that the Trae Young era was ending, and I think that had a huge impact on his on-court performance before he was injured and before he was traded. So
I think the success of the team without him just showed that, it was time to move on. You mentioned Jalen Johnson is now the face of the franchise. Trae Young got a nice support cast. I will say that Wizards squad is looking okay.
It's looking really good. So I think in points leagues, you can start looking at Trae Young around this spot again, especially if you need guards. He is somebody you can look at. There are some other ones that I think would still be on the board here that you could look at as well, but he's definitely worth it. In category leagues, I'm not touching him here. I think this is way too high, regardless of if he's fully healthy or not. I just think he has too many holes in his game.
He has had one really good 9-cap season, but apart from that, he's often had those deficiencies, glaring deficiencies as well in terms of 9-cap. But points league, much more effective. Now let's finish off the top 24 or the first two rounds. Amen Thompson, LaMelo Ball, Chet Holmgren, and Devin Booker.
Yeah, I mean, LaMelo Ball, pretty much the same thing as Trae Young. I think in category leagues, this is a little bit too high for me, especially Ball. You and I talked about him too, the fact that he's teaming up now with Anthony Edwards. I do think some of his numbers might come down a little bit because obviously those two have to share the ball. But we know what kind of a polarizing figure he is, and we know that he has upside. And again, he's a guy that in points leagues, he can be better. Again, last year he was kind of mediocre in every format, but he's a popular guy. So if you want him, this is probably where you will need to at least start targeting him. And I'll say the same thing about Amin Thompson. He's a guy that we knew last year with VanVleet getting injured that Thompson was going to have the ball in his hands a lot more. He's a young player. He's looking to progress and improve. And, so we were all really high on him. He didn't quite live up to expectations, but he's certainly shown that the potential's still there.
And he had a horrific start to the season, and people were saying
Horrific
absolute
start.
bust. And you look at that overall ranking gun, we paid a lot more for that, but the end of the season was a lot better. Chet Holmgren, I think similar boat. We forgot how good he was during the regular season because of the playoffs.
Yeah, and he's definitely somebody that's better in category leagues, but he's definitely somebody, again, you and I talked about him on my show as well. He's definitely somebody that you can take third round as like your first big man and easily.
And he was a second rounder.
Nice
you see the 9-cat rank per hashtag basketball, 17th last season, 45th, you said, in points, not as effective. A lot of his value is because of the blocks.
And I was going to say, me, man, I love those blocks and threes from your bigs. So that's a very easy way to kind of build your team around players like that. So he's very cat friendly. In terms of points leagues, he's okay. He's definitely like the value's not quite as there, but he's still a very good player. You probably don't need to take him this early in points leagues, but you can start to look at him again if you need a big. He's probably not going to fall too much further.
Yeah, exactly. We round out the top 24 with Devin Booker, who was 43rd in 9-cat last season. Somewhat disappointing. At times took a back seat to the rest of the career at the Suns, but are you taking him here at the end of the second round?
It's kind of a tough call. I mean, he's a good player. He's a Michigan guy, so personally, I'm rooting for him. But especially in category leagues, it's kind of tough. There are so many good guards. I usually tend to go in a different direction, but I'm not going to knock anybody who wants to take him end of the second round, early third round. He's always got bounce back ability.
He does. And speaking of third round, there's a couple of guys that I probably would take ahead of Devin Booker. Let's get into the third round. We won't analyze it as intensely, but there are a couple of names I just wanted to highlight. But 25th, James Harden. 26th, Kawhi Leonard. 27th is Austin Reeves, and he's one of the guys that I'm quite high on. You mentioned Luka, no more LeBron James at the Lakers. I think Austin Reeves is going to have a fantastic season. Let's get back to the old guys, though. James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. Is that too high? Is that about right?
So I think it's about right. So with Kawhi, there's all kinds of risk right now. We know about the load management. We know about injury history. We know that he's another year older, and we know about the whole situation with is he going to still be on the Clippers? Is he going to Toronto? If the trade goes through, I feel a lot more comfortable with him. If it doesn't go through and he's, still with the Clippers, there's all kinds of risks. We're hearing rumors about there could still be a suspension. Now, we heard this a year ago and nothing wound up happening. So in terms of on the court production, you can see the numbers right there. He was absolutely amazing in all formats. And I just think, again, it's a situation where it depends on who you're playing with, who you're drafting with. If you're with a lot of really good competitive people, I don't think you can let a guy like Kawhi Leonard fall too far. That's just my opinion. I think that, a lot of people don't want to take that risk, but I think if you're in really competitive leagues, you got to do what you got to do. You can't risk your opponent being able to get him at a greater value and add to who they've already drafted. And then you're missing out on your team.
Steve, it's not often that we disagree, but I think I'm going to disagree. I think I'm probably going to steer away from Kawhi Leonard this season, unless it is Roto. I think Roto, wonderful play.
It's a lot easier in Roto. It's a huge risk in head-to-head. And it, again, it depends. Okay, like if you're not taking him, who are you taking? And, if we're talking first, second round, it's an easier decision to pass on him. But once we're seeing him fall to like third round, to me, I don't want to let him slip too far. It's just he's just too good. And I'll say the same thing about James Harden. I think James Harden, the days of him being a first rounder, I think are over. But right here, top of the third round, I think that's perfect spot for him. We all assume he's going to be back in Cleveland, and I think he'll keep doing the stuff that he's doing. He is a year older. There's always the chance he could get hurt or just start to slow down. But again, you got to get those elite players, those elite guards. And I think this is a good spot. And I totally agree with you on Reeves.
Any other highlights in this list? I mentioned Austin Reeves, who I'm massive on. I'm willing to take him at the end of the second round. I think he will return that. Anthony Davis at 28, followed by Josh Giddey, Evan Mobley, Trey Murphy, Derek White, Jalen Brunson, Larry Markkinen, Bam Adebayo, and Denny Avdia round out the top 36 or the first 3 rounds. Any highlights there? Now, I have highlighted Denny Avdia, but for you, any other names there on that list?
Yeah, just real quick, Trey Murphy. You can see how good he was in category leagues, and we know the potential. And with the Pelicans, it's been a really weird offseason. They haven't done too much. We heard a lot of trade rumors early on. In fact, my Pistons were kind of hoping that we could maybe try to pry him away from New Orleans. Obviously, that hasn't happened. So, assuming he's still there,
2 first rounders. Was it 2 first rounders? I don't think that's enough. But was that the offer?
I don't know. Clearly, it wasn't enough, and it shouldn't be. And if New Orleans is smart, they will not only hang on to him, but they'll prioritize him. And so, if they do, assuming that's the case, I'm expecting more of what we've already seen. So, I think this is a really good spot for him. Really good value. Derek White, a guy that you auto drafted in one of our mock drafts. I actually thought that was it was a slight bit high, only because he is going to fall to the 3rd round, maybe even the 4th round. And I think at that spot, that's really good value, especially in category leagues. So I think he's definitely someone coming off a down season, especially with the shooting, but I think he's definitely somebody who can bounce back. I think he will bounce back. No Jaylen Brown there. I think there's a huge opportunity for him. He's a champion. He's won before. He fits that system well. They love him. So I'm not too down on him. Lauri Markkinen, you and I talked about him on my show. Huge upside in all formats. Just has to stay healthy. Just has to stay out there. And again, with the new rules changes, there's less incentive for these teams to tank. So
and we did talk at length about that. I think they're a much more competitive side this season, which will help Lauri Markkinen stay on the court. I don't know if he gets first round value like we saw last season. And what did we say? He's had 3 of the last 4 seasons. He's been in the top 20 in terms of 9-cat, which is amazing. But he just can't stay on the court for different reasons, whether it's injury or whether it's the tanking Jazz. But yeah, like you said, I think he stays on the court for longer if indeed he does stay healthy. Bam Adebayo and Denny Avdia. I've just highlighted Avdia, and we discussed this on your show.
We did.
There's just so many mouths to feed. The usage is going to come down. He won't be the primary facilitator like he was last season. We now have Ja Morant. Presumably. Ja Morant and Dame Lillard, I think, will take the alpha roles back. I don't think the ego will let them be pushed aside for Denny Avdia at the very least right now anyway. So I'm concerned about drafting him this high. Do you concur, or would you be comfortable taking him in the 3rd round?
I concur. I think this is a little bit high, but I don't think he's going to fall too far, especially if you're drafting early. He's still a popular name. He's still somebody that I think will go around here. So if you really want him, you'll have to start targeting him around here. But if you can let him fall another round even, I think that would be better.
And who knows? You look at that 9-cat ranking last season. We think he had an amazing season. He did. He did get pushed down because of the turnovers, sometimes some inconsistent shooting. But the turnovers are probably going to be reduced because of the other guys on the team. Now, does that increase his efficiency, but also decrease the assists and other statistics? It remains to be seen. But I am still wary of Denny here in the 3rd round. Now, let's get into the 4th round. And again, it's the 4th round plus an extra 2 just to round out the top 20. I've highlighted J-Dub. Once again, we spoke about J-Dub on your show, Steve. I think he can have the bounce back. 9-cat ranking last season, atrocious, injury-ravaged season. But it wasn't that long ago. We were considering him a 2nd rounder along the likes of Jalen Johnson. Now he's here. He's ranked 37, an ADP just under 40. I think that presents some value here.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I'm a little worried that he's another one that, like, once we see him on the court, I think this ADP goes up a little bit. So if you're drafting early, go get him because you will get value on him. If we see him in preseason and he's balling out, I mean, again, we know with preseason, these established guys aren't going to play a ton. But the time that they are out there that we get to see them, if he's out there doing his thing and looking like his former self, this ADP is going to definitely go up.
Yeah. And OKC aren't as deep as they were last season as well, which may also help him somewhat.
For sure.
Any other names on this list? So Just for those that are just listening, not watching, we got J-Dub, we have Jaylen Brown, Walker Kessler, Domantas Sabonis at 40, JJJ 41, Brandon Miller, Jalen Duren, Konkaneppel at 44. So you got two Charlotte Hornets very close by. Desmond Bain and Yeka Okongwu, Nikhil Alexander-Walker, Paolo Banchero, not one of my favorites for categories, but understand the hype around points. He's probably under ADP in terms of points leagues. Donovan Clingan and Darius Garland round out the top 50. Anything that really stands out for you, Steve?
Could talk about all these guys, but Walker Kessler on the Lakers, obviously they committed to him. He was really, really good, especially in category leagues per game, but obviously didn't play a lot of games. So we're going to have to hope that he's healthy. But if you want him, you're going to have to get him around here. He's not going to fall much further than this, especially being on the Lakers. He's going to be a very popular pick for anybody that needs a big man around this spot. Sabonis, we're all hoping for a bounce back season from him. We don't know if he's healthy yet. We don't know what Sacramento's doing. There's still a chance Sabonis could get traded. He's another one that's rumored, or at least was rumored to, possibly become a Piston here in Detroit. And speaking of that,
a lot of hype around Maxime Reynaud to end last season as well. So that probably doesn't help.
No, it doesn't.
Sabonis. But I'm a bit like you. I think you can turn things around this season.
Yep. And then, speaking to my Pistons, Jalen Duren, he's somebody that's still unsigned. We don't know what's going to happen. We assume he'll be back here, and we assume that he's going to get back on track to doing what he was doing during the regular season. But we saw how bad he was during the postseason. And, that's going to definitely leave a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. It has. And we're seeing that already. But, I mean, if you look at the numbers across the board, in all formats during the regular season, he was outstanding. And if he can get back to doing that, you're going to get good value on him.
And he's probably still not near his peak as well. Still a young man, so he's only going to get better.
Yep. But a lot of good names on this list. Konkaneppel, a lot of people are excited about him, and his development in Charlotte. Onyeka Okongwu and Donovan Clingan, both very good big men that might be a little bit safer than the few that we mentioned already on this list. So those are guys also in this area that you could target.
Yeah, and Darius Garland is the 50th. He rounds out the top 50 as well. Do you think he can perform at a new team as well? We saw him there at the end of last season, but he's likely going to have a full preseason. Can he really reach his potential?
Yeah, you and I both have liked him for a while, and he's got a lot of potential. We know he has some flaws in his game, but with the direction that Clippers team's going, and again, assuming that the trade goes through and they bring in Brandon Ingram and Kawhi Leonard gets shipped out to Toronto, they're going to be building their team basically around Garland, presumably. So, he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. He's going to have a lot of room to grow and develop. And again, you got to get those guards. So this is around the time that 50 range where he's probably going to go. I don't see him sliding too much more than this.
Thank you, Steve. That's the top 50. Thank you so much for the analysis, guys. If you've got any thoughts or you think someone's a little bit too high right now, let us know as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video. Steve, where can we find you as well, mate?
I'm at podcast_Pierre on X, and the name of my show is Menace Podman. It's an audio podcast, so it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere you get audio podcasts. So definitely check it out. And thank you again, D-Mac. Always a pleasure. And welcome back, dude. We've missed you.
I'm back, baby. I've missed you guys as well. It's back. We're back, baby. Yep. Do yourself a favor. Make sure you follow Steve as well. Wonderful fantasy mind, and doesn't just go with what everyone else is thinking. He's not one of the sheep, and he's got different thoughts. And we saw how good he was at some of his schools last season. Yeah. So make sure you give him a follow as well. But thank you so much, guys. And until next time, see ya.